After seeing a behavior, 8 possible descriptions of that behavior will appear on the screen. Touch the 5 characteristics that describe each conflict behavior. 3 will be incorrect. Okay, first let's look at the avoider, the person who pretends for a variety of reasons that there's no problem, no issue at all to address.
I think I understand the part, but tell me a little more about it.
Well, avoiding or deferring is a strategy some negotiators use. They're not afraid to make an offer and leave it on the table. In conflict situations, there are many, many other reasons why a person might choose to ignore a problem.
You mean something like, the problem will go away. It'd take care of itself.
That's one example. Some people believe that time heals all wounds and solves all problems.
I see what you want. A person might say, it could only make matters worse. Why make a mountain out of a molehill? Or, that's life. It's just the way things are. Or, hey, there's nothing I can do about it. You can't fight City Hall. It's amazing how many cliches we have for avoiding a problem.
There's a whole range of avoiders, from those who disown the problem.
It's not my problem. Not among my priorities.
To those who feel they don't know enough to address the problem.
I just don't know how to deal with it.
To those who are confident the conflict will be resolved on its own and in their favor. Unfortunately, avoiding or deferring on an issue doesn't usually work for very long as a negotiating strategy because it almost always comes back to haunt you. Well, you did a good job. You visualized the part well. Let's see if the audience can identify the characteristics of a person who avoids. Touch the 5 characteristics on the screen that apply to the person who avoids conflict. Now, the next type is the accommodator. Accommodation can be a very effective negotiating technique in the right situations. For example, when you are, say, granting something to the other party that doesn't really sacrifice your own interests. It's not true that accommodation is simply caving in, rolling over, or waving the white flag.
You're absolutely right. We do have the power to grant you that, and we'll do so because it's not a priority to us.
Sometimes a person accommodates because he lacks the knowledge or resources to stand up for an interest.
I'm going to grant you that because I don't have the time, the power, or the money to stand in your way. Besides, I don't know what else to do about it.
Accommodating can be very powerful when it's done as an investment in the future.
Let me do this for you now. Don't worry about it. I'll let you know when I need your help in return.
In this case, the accommodator's interest is in developing and nurturing the relationship itself. Accommodating is extending a greater degree of cooperation, often to serve one's interests at a later time. The accommodator may offer you something with one hand, but he may be keeping track with the other.
How do you do? It's a pleasure to meet you.
Competition. It's healthy, it's the American way, but only to a degree. At some point, competition becomes combativeness. It alienates others and causes harm to their images and careers. There are many reasons why people compete in conflict situations, some good and some bad.
I'm sorry. Your interests are so offensive to me. I cannot budge. It's the way we do business here. Look out for number 1. I don't have time for this. Take it or leave it. It's the fastest way to the top. I'm going to get my way and get the visibility and recognition I deserve. $4,000. $4,000? No way. You've backed me in a corner. You've left me with no alternatives. It's now a matter of my survival. I will not submit.
Competition has its place, but it's a matter of degree. Being competitive often protects our interests and our egos, but it shouldn't be used to injure or deprive. Compromise is sharing, not splitting. When a person compromises, he often finds that his interests are in jeopardy, but then so too are the interests of the other party. When both sides compromise, they share the elements of their dissatisfaction.
I must sell this car because I need the money. You want to buy my car because you must have transportation. I won't go below $6,000. You won't go above $4,000. We compromise at $4,500. Neither of us got what we wanted, but not to have compromised would have been worse.
Both parties found themselves in no man's land, an area neither wanted to enter. So they compromised and shared their dissatisfaction. Touch the 5 characteristics that describe the compromiser. The 5th conflict behavior is collaboration. It's really more than a behavior, it's an attitude that the only practical, equitable, and durable settlement to a conflict is one that satisfies the interests of both parties.
Let's agree that before continuing with the remodeling of our home, we learn how each of us feels about living here. Is this a home that really meets both our needs?
True collaboration is satisfying both parties' interests with every proposal. Now, this behavior works best when both sides are aware of interest satisfaction, but it can be a powerful strategy when one party makes the other aware of interests and strengths that may have been overlooked.
We both know the jury could go either way in this case. We both know the risks and the expense of going forward, not to mention the amount of time it's going to take. Besides, money invested today is worth much more than money invested 2 years from now when the trial would take place. Let's come to an agreement and put this matter behind us.
Truly integrating your interests and mine, converting each issue to interests, looking at all the angles, working it out, it's not an easy strategy, but the work that goes into it is usually reflected in the quality of the settlement that comes out.
It may not be in your best interest to let this conflict intensify. Help me meet your interests and mine as well. Whether we come out of this as victims or victors is up to both of us.
Identify the characteristics of the person who uses collaboration to resolve conflict. Now that you've attempted to identify each of the 5 conflict resolution behaviors, let's take a look at the ones we consider to be the right answers. On the left-hand side of the screen are the characteristics you selected, and on the right-hand side of the screen are the ones that we selected. When you've finished reviewing the behaviors, touch the Continue icon at the bottom of the screen. We want to do a little experiment. Following are some exercises that put you in a conflict situation. Decide how you'll respond by pressing the letter of the best next step. When you've finished, we'll show you what type of behavior you seem to use. Based on your answers, you seem to demonstrate an avoiding behavior. Based on your answers, you seem to demonstrate an accommodating behavior. Based on your answers, you seem to demonstrate a competitive behavior. Based on your answers, you seem to demonstrate a compromising behavior. Based on your answers, you seem to demonstrate a collaborative behavior.